G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the YouTube channel. How are we all doing today? I thought I'd do something a little bit different today, and that is talking about the things I dislike about the Honda Rebel. Now, I've got about 27,000 kilometers on it. I don't know how many miles that is because we don't use the incorrect measurements in Australia. But there's a few things that come with the bike that a few people aren't a fan of, myself included. I thought I'd just go over a few of them, okay? Now, I don't know if I've done a video like this anytime recently, so I thought I'd do one now. Like I said, I'm a long-term owner of the Rebel. I've had it for about 3 and a bit years now, so I know what I'm talking about. I've done all the kilometers and stuff. I bought a brand new, which is a 21 model. I don't think they've changed too much. I think on the new 1100s they've changed a few things, but let's start with the obvious one. Here, all right? Everyone's favorite thing is the chair. This thing sucks for a stock chair. It looks like it's cushiony when you touch it here, but you do a long day riding on that bitch, it's terrible, all right? It's very firm, and naturally, if you're riding for 3-4 hours, you're probably gonna wanna change that, okay? Similar vein, the pillion seat, because it arches backwards, if you haven't got a sissy bar and you're like riding aggressively for a Honda Rebel, this thing, your pillion likes to slide off. So it's a little annoying for your passengers, from experience. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But the cushion, she's a little lacking. Now, the simple solution is you can replace the chair. That's a little expensive, but it's doable. The other option would be to get it reupholstered. A few places will do it with the same cover, or they'll do another cover with leather and give you a much better one, okay? So, up next, this thing, all right? Everyone loves hitting their leg on the transmission, because when you hop on the bike, that's what hits your leg. Now, after riding it for years, you don't really notice it anymore, okay? You get used to it after a few months. But you shouldn't have to get used to it. The bike's really narrow, really small, so if you're sitting here, you can see you've got a really narrow pinch point, but you can really see on that right side how much the transmission sticks out, which is a little annoying. Like I said, you do get used to it, but it's not the best. So it's just one of those things, okay? Another thing I found, this one's maybe not forever, but the paint on this little bracket here sucks. I got that thing replaced and it came off in like, I don't know, a couple weeks. Shouldn't do that, all right? Anyway, one thing I'm definitely not a fan of, as I've said, is this. Ooh, don't mind the bugs on it. The LED on this bike leaves a bit to be desired. Now, it does the job, but when you're riding around in a dark area with no other lights and it's the middle of the night, if you're turning, you're gonna see jack shit. So if there's any animals or anything like the sort, you're probably not gonna see them. So perhaps don't ride out in the middle of nowhere if you don't know the place, and also still, you're not going to see much. The indicators might help if you turn them on mid-corner, but same scenario. These things, the brakes, not that good. They do enough in most cases, but after you ride a bike that's a bit more premium, high quality, you learn pretty quickly just how mediocre them things are. So, like, put it in perspective, this here, you can touch the bar pretty comfortably, yeah? On any of the other bikes I've ridden, even the R7, like this, you're going to stop the bike. After I ride the R7s and the R1s and the MT10s, I get on the bike and start doing this, and then like, you just realise how pathetic the braking power is on the Rebel. One of those things. The one thing the Rebel does have going for it is it's got an actual cable throttle, and I like that. If you guys are interested in the Vans groups, by the way, just be careful. After a few years, they do start to fall apart. Now, that's just the nature of rubber. I do have the old grip still, but I definitely need to change those ones there. Alright, so up next, this thing on the stock bike, you have an ugly, flat looking straight tank barrel, as I've been told. Horrible exhaust. Now, I know a lot of these exhausts for these newer bikes need to be done for emissions and garbage like that, but they're horrible, man. Horrible, terrible things. So replace that garbage straight away. That sucks. The tail assembly of this bike by stock is not so bad, fortunately. You don't really need a tail tidy. I almost got one, but I changed my mind. That's just the nature of it. One thing a lot of people complain about is the suspension. It's a very common upgrade. I think it's a little firm for a cruiser. It seems to be the common consensus. I don't really care, alright? I don't ride over enough. But if you do hit a few big bumps, you're gonna notice it. Ooh, this GoPro's getting a little toasty. Another thing you'll notice with this bike is the radiator looks a little bargain bin, doesn't really match the bike. It's just sort of plonked on there, probably from another bike, and I assume it would be. The Rebel is a bit of a parts machine by Honda. And one thing I definitely recommend changing is your stock chain, all right? Now, I changed it to this one because my stock one, I think I would tighten it and go for a ride and it would already be loose again, and that would happen all the time. And that's when I ended up getting rid of it because, man, it was a pain in the ass to continuously tighten it all the time. Now, you can't GP shift this bike, unfortunately, kids. Now, I know that's a big problem for a lot of yous. That's not an issue. One thing you do have to enjoy about it is the stock mirrors are easy to flip. A lot of people ask, so I might as well just tell you here. This little bracket is a thing you can get on Amazon, eBay, doesn't matter. It's literally just Google or search up on eBay the mirror flip kit. You just get this. Now just be careful, my one came with the wrong bolts, so I couldn't actually attach the mirrors to it, so I had to buy them separately, but get a locking nut for that one. And that's literally how easy it is. The downside is, this happens when you drop the bike. That doesn't happen normally, so standard, it's pretty good, but otherwise, it's not the best. Now, here is another thing that's not the best. This little screen, okay, does the job, but when it's really, really wet, I find it really hard to read. Now, I have my settings 1 below the maximum brightness, okay? That's pretty high. You shouldn't need to do much more than that. In the sun, obviously, it's a little annoying to read, but that's normal with TFTs and DigiDashes. It's not hard to read. It's only when the sun is blinding you by the reflection on the actual screen itself. Never had an issue with just sun glare being on it, and I can't see. It's only if the sun's reflecting straight back into my eyes, okay? Pretty normal, but when it's really, really wet and rainy, it's almost impossible to see. I have a video somewhere ages ago on the channel where I am riding in heavy, heavy rain. You can't see shit in the dashboard, all right? That's the one thing that I can complain about. All the controls are fine. The only thing I really don't like, but this is a very cruiser thing, is the fact that the lock is here on the right side. There's the keys on the other side. Now, I know, yes, naked bikes and sports bikes is just here, and I think it's a superior method to do it that way. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about that. A lot of the cruisers like to be different and have their locks on the forks and the ignition somewhere else. So what can you do, man? What can you do? Besides that, look, the only other thing I can really complain about is the placement of the oil filter, because if you have a ride and you want to change your filter, guess what? Your headers are right there, your filter's right there, so you got to be careful. You don't want to burn yourself. And even on the other side, it's still really awkward here. But yeah, you can see just under there, it's an annoying little spot. So, look, you're prone to burn your hands if you don't do it. Last on the list is the front tyre. Now, the tyre tread they pick themselves is just cruiser tread. Look, it's not the best tread in the world, but it's a cruiser. You don't need the bloody Diablo Rosso 4s and whatnot. But the front tyre being big, now, I'm not a big hater of it, but I'll chuck it in there anyway as a last little how do you do. Bigger front tyre means you don't turn in as fast, okay? So your turning in, leaning isn't as good. It's more stable in a straight line. If you hit a bump or something like that, that's fine. But I just thought I'd chuck it in there with my 2 cents. Everything else about the bike is fine. The power isn't much, but it's enough. The torque isn't huge, but it's enough. It's a small engine bike. What do you expect? But that's everything I don't really like about it. But that doesn't mean I hate it. I love this bike. Otherwise, that is all I have to talk about today. Ladies and gentlemen, take it easy, keep it cheesy. I do hope you have a wonderful time, and as always, ride safe. And let me know down below if there's anything you don't like that I missed. Otherwise, peace, bye.